I want to talk about accountability on this Speakdom. Have you ever met somebody in your life, and hopefully it's not you, but have you ever met somebody in your life who just never takes accountability for anything? Like, they put themselves in these holes, whether it be financial, in relationships, in friendships. They piss away their friends. They do things that are, rude and insulting and treat people badly. And it ends up backfiring on them because people tend to gravitate away from them, and they can never just accept that they're the problem. It's always someone else's fault. It's always their fault. They said this. They made me do that. It's this. It's that. It's almost sociopathic in a way, right? Not that everybody who does this is sociopathic, because there's different, disorders and personality disorders and mental disorders that go on. But the older I get, the more I start to really sort of gravitate away from these people, right? The older I get. And it's sad because some of these people I genuinely have cared for. Some of them I have, tried to be a good friend to. But, the older I get, the less time I have for this type of shit. You know what I mean? Because it's pretty fucked up when somebody, does something objectively wrong or takes something the wrong way. And rather than, try to work it out and talk about it, they just blow up, and then they never accept responsibility for their part in the disagreement. And I feel like we as people, I don't care what political belief you have, or what country you live in, or what gender you are. I don't care. There's been jokes that have been made throughout the years. Oh, women have no accountability. That's a joke that was made in a movie called As Good as It Gets, right? But I disagree with that. I think that we as people need to start being accountable for our actions a bit more. And whenever something bad happens to us, one of the things I've learned how to do is kind of sit there and think for a moment and say, okay, what could I have done to make this better? What could I have done to change this? Say you say something rude to somebody else. Let's say you make a joke and that person does not like the joke. The old me would have probably been like, take a joke then, loser. I would have just been like that. It's just a joke, bro. It's basically like you're, in a way, sort of blaming them for not getting your humor. And one thing I've learned recently in the past, year or so is that not everyone's going to understand you. They're not going to get your personality. And somebody like me who has a very strong personality, somebody like me who has a very, has a lot of high energy when you talk to me off of when I'm not tired, off of the web and whatnot, when you actually get to know me, sometimes I'll rattle off 4 or 5 jokes in a row, and one might rub somebody the wrong way, but if there's no communication, I'm never going to know that I bothered them. So there has to be communication, right? But if there is communication, now I've kind of come to learn what the other side may think. One of the problems that's going on now in the world is we live in a world now where people have their heads so far stuck up their ass that they never see the forest in the trees, and they can't ever look at somebody else and look at what they're going through or look at their sort of perspective on things. In the political landscape, it goes on for sure, but even on the web, and when you get to a point where you have such zero accountability and such an ego where you say something like, well, they're the bad guy, I'm the good guy, and that's the way it is, we got a problem. And it's kind of fucked up because Democrats and Republicans do it to each other all the time. Well, they're the bad guys and we're the good guys. Oh, no. The right, they're evil. Oh no, the left, they're a bunch of sissies. That's all we hear. And when you go down that pathway, right, what ends up happening is you eliminate any sort of possibility of an actual discourse, of an actual conversation, and you eliminate any sort of possibility of coming to a compromise, coming to an agreement. Or even if you can't come to an agreement about something, at least listen to the other side, validate the way they feel, and try to come to a compromise or at least agree to disagree. I don't want to live my life like this anymore, to where you always try to validate yourself and point at somebody else as the enemy. I did that when I was younger. I'm not doing that anymore because The reality is that most human beings are lawfully good, but there are bad people out there. But the bad people who are actually bad are the ones that commit bad things. Even if you think about something bad, I mean, granted, there are some really bad things you should not think about. But if you think about, oh, this guy pissed me off, I want to punch him out. Like, that's a natural reaction. That's just anger, Our human emotion is normal. If you're thinking about doing something to a child or something like that, now we got some problems, you know what I mean? But just your basic stuff like anger, that's all normal stuff, right? But I feel like when you feel that way, you got to take accountability for your actions, because if you don't take accountability for your actions, number one, you'll never grow. Number two, you'll never learn from it. And number three, you're going to alienate more people. More people are going to catch on to this as we get older and smarter, and they're going to stay away from you. And you don't want that. But also, in order to properly process heartbreak and to properly process mistakes, you also got to take accountability for your actions and kind of be like, and say, okay, I fucked this up. I did this wrong, and I'm not going to do it again. And if you don't do that, then you're doomed to repeat that same mistake. And eventually it's going to really come back to backfire on you, where you'll make a mistake that you'll really regret. You know what I mean? Whether it be, get knocked out one day by crossing somebody on the streets, or make a wrong life choice with a substance abuse. I'll have one more beer, and then you end up getting drunk and drunk driving and crashing and possibly dying or hurting yourself. Like, you got to really take accountability for your actions, man. And so many people just don't take accountability. It's never their fault. It's, oh, I have a problem. Or, the ones I can't stand are the ones that use their mental health as a crutch. Like, I've talked about my mental health, and I've had a lot of accountability for my mistakes, but you're never going to sit here and watch me go look for trouble and go attack somebody and then say, no, man, don't attack me. I've got, anxiety disorder. No, that's cowardly shit. Or you're a coward if you do that shit. You're a coward. Like, you can't sit there and start shit with people and then all of a sudden back away and say, no, don't play the victim. That's cowardly. Take accountability and say, yeah, I have this problem. I made this mistake. I'm sorry. It's not that hard. It doesn't make you less of a person to do that. You know what I mean? It really doesn't. It actually makes you more of a person, because more of a man, more of a woman, more of whatever you want to be, because you sit there and you say, okay, not only did I screw this up, but I'm better now. The person who made this mistake doesn't exist anymore. You know what I mean? I'm better now. But instead, people just point the finger and say it's the other side's fault. It's your fault. You made me say this. You said that. You did this. You did that. And maybe it's true. Maybe they did do something. What about you, though? What about you? What about your part in this? I think the time has come now to be an adult, right? Because I'm trying the best that I can here. And we all make mistakes. Take accountability for them. But it's time for us to be adults about this and acknowledge when we made mistakes and try to do better. Because if you don't try to do better, the world's going to just pass you by. People are going to outgrow you. It's not going to be one of those things where you're going to have these lifelong friends. I mean, you may, don't get me wrong, but people in general will eventually outgrow you, and you're going to be stuck alone wondering what happened. What happened to all these people that used to like me? Well, they outgrew you. Because over time, you get tired of people who don't take accountability. You just get tired of it, And it's important to be a mature adult to take accountability for your actions. And sometimes you may not realize it till like months or even years later. Like, for example, I talk about some of my exes and mistakes I've made in the past with them, right? I think about them way after and say, oh, I could have done this better, could have done that better, but it's better late than never. You know what I'm saying? And then in the future, okay, mental note, I won't do that again. That's how you grow. I don't believe in people saying no regrets. That's bullshit. You have to have regrets to grow. Well, I don't have any regrets. No. Then you're a sociopath. You have to have regrets in order to grow. You have to make mistakes. You grow through pain, which might actually be my next speak. I'm thinking about doing that next. Pain equals growth. But you have to go through suffering. You have to go through your own, obstacles, physical, mental, emotional, to become better. You've got to do it. It's just part of life. And can't be afraid of it. But when it happens, instead of blaming everybody else, look at yourself and see what you did wrong. Because then, even if it is someone else's fault, at least you know that next time something like that happens, you'll at least make sure to dodge it getting worse or you causing a problem. And if it is someone else's fault, then it is their fault. But you got to be mature enough and have enough self-retrospection, introspection that is, to really hit the nail on the head. Hope this helped. Talk to you soon.